Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're here with Billy, who got first place at the Carta Magica online event. How's it going today, Billy?
Good. How about you?
Can't complain, man. Cannot complain. So, you played Blue Baby this event. I think this is actually a very, very good pick for best of one, and we'll kind of get into that as we talk about it. I know from some of our messages via Patreon and whatnot that you're really into Blue. You were talking about Zamasu back then. What made you want to play Blue Baby?
Well, I have pretty much played Blue since I started playing the game. I've only played since like June of 2020, so I'm fairly new. I started in set 10, so I've pretty much played Blue the whole time, and I've always played Blue more defensive. And actually, when Baby was released, I didn't play it because the promos were so expensive. But once they dipped to like $10, I picked it up, and I'm like in love with the deck. Green text, best text.
Gotcha. So just counterattack, counterplay. That's what you're all about. Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good deck. I think in best of one, it's really strong because most of your counterplays and counterattacks, they answer just about almost any situation you'll find yourself in, which is something I think that like Blue Baby has an advantage over like Invoker per se. Like Invoker deals with a lot of stuff in the meta, but sometimes they need some of their side deck techs to deal with certain things. But I feel like Blue Baby is very well rounded. Did you run into any decks that gave you an issue or not really?
Honestly, no. Pretty much the whole day, every game I played, I didn't feel like I was ever in a losing position just because I think the Baby Leader puts you in such an advantageous spot with the draw 2, the Overlord, and then scrying 3 every turn for your Baby Hatch. Like, you have it pretty much every game. I would say, the deck has an answer to pretty much every deck in the meta. King Piccolo was the only game where I truly felt like if I misplayed, I would lose.
Okay, gotcha. So let's get into the main deck and check it out. So your Unison lineup is very different than most Baby lists I've ever seen. I've seen a couple playing Gogeta Pursuit of Power. I've never really seen the absolute Unison Gotenks in the main board. And then again, I've seen some people playing the SS4 Goku. But the other big thing is you're not playing the Baby Unison. So just talk us through that. How did you come to this Unison split and why no Baby Unison?
Sure. So when they changed regionals to best of one, I knew I had to change the deck because you have a lot of matchups where you kind of want to go into side decking to beat them. Like Mecha Frieza, you need to have stuff that ignores barrier. That's why I ran the Absolute Unison at 2, because I wanted to be able to see that against that deck. The only real reason I kept the Pursuit of Power in was for Dark Broly, because it answers the Demigra on turn 2. Because you can do the -2, and I pretty much used it like a max power Kamehameha, but it draws one. And then I like the Protector of Earth because it's kind of like a turn 5, turn 6. They can't really kill you because the auto effect is like insane. And with cards you'll see, later on in the deck profile, it doesn't really bother me tapping out too much because I have a lot of ways to reactivate my energy.
Gotcha. That point about the Gogeta Pursuit of Power is really, really interesting, actually. I was talking about this with my teammate Marcus, who played Blue Baby in Miami, and he was thinking about playing this Houston as well. And actually, yeah, one of the big draws was the -2, like, remove any big battle card. And yeah, Demigra can be an issue sometimes for Blue Baby, so it's pretty cool that you went ahead and used it for that ability. Pretty interesting. All right, and then of course we got 2 Godsling Technique Trunks. I kind of get the 2 of. I mean, you're not always gonna have a Unison super early, so that kind of makes sense to me. 3 Kami, I think at this point is like a main deck staple in Baby. It's one of the decks that can utilize Kami the best because you don't really, do too much to your own board, and you're blue, so you can like untap energy once you tap 3 for Kami. But 4 Zeno Edge of Space. This is pretty interesting. So why this super combo choice?
Yeah, so like you said with the God Stealing, I'll say that I did because most of my Unisons don't have more than 2 markers most of the time. And then for the Zeno Edge of Space is kind of what I was saying about the Protector of the Earth. It lets me tap out a lot more comfortably and not worry about dying the next turn. So honestly, the way I play the deck, I just always want to have energy, but I also want to be able to utilize a lot of my energy as well on my turn. Because like if I have to turn 3 Kami, then I know that it's not like I'm not going to have sparking or anything, and I can use Zeno if I have it to untap another energy.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of Blue Baby players who like, yeah, I never want to ever use energy on my own turn, but I understand like, in the case of Kami, sometimes you need that against things like King Piccolo or even sometimes like Mecha Frieza, right? So that definitely makes a lot of sense. Then for the rest of or not the rest of, but more of the negates, we've got 4 D Magic, 4 Revenge Big Bang Attack, and then the 1 Baby Hatch. So yeah, the crazy thing about this deck is you can scry 3 every turn once you're awakened, and a lot of times you find Baby Hatch. So it sounds like you had it almost every single round. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to not see it, especially since I run the Goku Apes for draw, and then Revenge Big Bang Attack cycles. I can use Kami to cycle on my turn just to use energy, because honestly, when you're at 4 or 5 energy, you don't really need it, so you can afford to just spend 1 to draw 1. Because the big thing is you want to see your big threats. You want to see your Turning the Tides. You want to see your Fu Shrouded. So as much draw as possible, and then the Scry 3, yeah, it's really hard to not see Baby Hatch, I think.
Gotcha. And then, of course, D-Magic, Revenge Big Bang Attack, super staple. It seems like you might use the sparking of D-Magic quite a bit from the way you're saying you like to tap out in the early turns. Is that right?
Yeah, so against most decks, if I live through turn 3 and 4 and turn 5, turn 6, I pretty much use my life as aggressively as possible, because I should have one of my guaranteed win cons, either Turning the Tide or Fu Shrouded. So I'll just sparking the rest of my life away just to have as many resources as possible. And then I can go to 1 life if I know they're not a deck like yellow or green that has counters or other blue decks. So like red, you can pretty much take your life as aggressively as possible, because you know that they can't really counter your last life. So you know you can always negate.
Gotcha. And then into the battle card negates, we got 4 Babies, Minion, Gohan, of course. 2 Ready to Rumble. I see some lists play it. I see some lists not play it. How'd you feel about it over the weekend?
I like it for turns 4 and 5, because it's a really good floodgate, because not only does it make your opponent have to rip an energy, but it is a blocker, so you can almost guarantee that one of those attacks he can block, unless you're against decks like yellow and stuff, which that just happens. But it feels pretty good just as like a good floodgate for turns 3 and 4.
Gotcha. And then 3 Heroic Prospect. I would say for a lot of blue decks, like in Best of 1, I would say probably main 4 Heroic Prospect. But in this deck where you're just so floodgate heavy, I think 3 is definitely a pretty good number. I guess in the meta, there's currently like Dark Broly. That's probably the number 1 card you want Heroic Prospect against. But was 3 okay?
Yeah, honestly, it was probably my most energied card, because in my matchups, I played 2 Invoker, 2 Majin Vegeta, a King Piccolo, so like that card's like pretty much, it doesn't do much in those matchups, so it went into the energy all the time just because it's, for the most part, I play it for 2 mana, because I don't get a Unison out that early. So yeah, I would say it was okay. You just have to have it for Red Broly and Dark Broly.
Gotcha. And then moving along, we have 4 Baby Diabolic Parasite. That's just your main counterplay in the deck. 4 Mechiorb, not Makikabora. Mechiorb, Bobbing and Weaving, and then 2 Hit Deadly Vanguard. I think Hit is actually insane in this deck because it becomes a 2 cost and it stops things like Demigra, True Power. Mechiorb is kind of interesting because I know a lot of baby players don't play it because it makes you more vulnerable to those draft box 6 silver bullets. But in Best of 1, odds are you probably don't have to worry about those silver bullets. So I actually like this main deck choice a lot for Best of 1. But overall, these cards worked out okay?
Yeah, I think the 4 Diabolic Parasite and 2 Hit Deadly Vanguard's a good number of counterplays. Like I said, there was a lot of Invoker, or at least maybe I just saw a lot of Invoker because I played against 2, but you pretty much need to see as many counterplays as possible because you don't want Rival Seeker to ever hit the board.
Right.
And then, yeah, Mechiorp was really good. It just gives you early pressure because you can negate an attack, and then it gives you a battle card to attack with, because that's like your only downfall, sometimes failing to have early pressure.
Gotcha. And then we have 2 Baby Golden Avengers. This is more of like the utility stuff, obviously not so much of like floodgates and whatnot, but we got 2 Baby Golden Avengers, which is interesting because you're not playing the Baby Unison, so it seems like you're going to cast this for 5 if you ever need it. How often did that come up?
It won me 1 Majin Vegeta matchup, and I believe, I want to say the one of the Invokers, I used it as well. Yeah, I used it to beat the last round Invoker. It's really good just hard casting it for 5 because it does so much. And like I said, since I run the Zenos, I can hard cast it for 5.
Gotcha. And then 3 Draw Apes. So what's funny is this card used to be in every single deck just a few formats ago, but now you actually don't see it that much. You chose to include it in Blue Baby. You're actually playing a 55 card list, which I think a lot of players would say it's on the higher side of the spectrum. But you chose to include this for more draw power. Do you think you could have maybe trimmed the deck down a bit, or did you really just want to have a ton of options for Best of 1 and just hope to draw with cards like this?
Well, thankfully the Planet Tuffle comes out of the deck, so it makes it a 54.
Yep.
I tried to trim it down more, but I kind of wanted to have as many options as possible since it was best of one, just because there's a bunch of different matchups that can be difficult. Like I ran the Piccolo and Gohan literally just for Dark Broly because they can, and any other black deck, because they can main deck the Son Goku True Fighting Spirit, which to me hurts more than the draft box Silver Bullets when I play this deck.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, you know, sometimes you can play without untapping, but you really can't play this deck without countering. So, yeah, True Fighting Spirit definitely seems like a big issue. I think Gohan Piccolo is actually a really, really good main deck tech for Blue Baby, especially when you expect a lot of Dark Broly and a lot of Vegex. It's kind of funny. It doesn't seem like you played a lot of Dark Broly. Dark Broly might be getting a little bit less popular, but still, I think it's a good main deck tech to have. And then we kind of come to the win conditions of the deck. You've got your 1 Fu Shrouded, your 2 Turning the Tide, and your 1 Jiren Survival of the Fittest. So funny, did you expect a lot of mirrors? Is that why you played Jiren?
Yeah, it's just Baby's becoming more and more popular, and I got this from Marcus's deck profile on your channel, and I was like, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you just throw one of it in? Even, like, you know, if you draw it, you can always counterplay it for 2 against slower decks, and it just gives you a free draw. Which, like I said, against slower decks, I just want to cycle to my win con because I know they have a win con too, so I want to get mine before theirs.
Gotcha. And then, so Turning the Tide is your main win con, of course, backed up by Fu Shrouded. How many games did Turning the Tide win you? Because in Marcus's profile, for instance, he didn't even play it. He kind of, you know, didn't think he was actually going to make it to turn 7, but your build seems more geared for getting to turn 7. So did Turning the Tide win you the majority of your games?
I would say Fu Shrouded won me 2 rounds. Turning the Tide probably won me 2 rounds as well. And then just out-tempoing aggro because they kind of ran out of steam would have been the rest of my wins.
Gotcha. So it seems like you definitely are able to make it, especially when you play against Invoker too, right? Like you played against 2 control decks, so you're definitely going to make it to that super late game, which makes a lot of sense. But overall, that's the entire main deck, Billy. Congratulations once again. Anything you would change about the list for future regionals?
Honestly, I just have to see what Battle Evolution brings because I haven't looked too much into that, but if the decks that are being played now stay the same, then I don't see the list changing that much. I think it answers a lot of the meta in terms of these best of 1 regionals.
Gotcha, very cool. So at the end, I always let players do any shoutouts they want to get out there, so feel free, do your thing, throw any shoutouts out there.
Yeah, no, shout out to Jordan, my buddy Jordan McCrae. We do all our testing together. We both fiend Dragon Ball a lot. He's the one that kind of got me up to speed since, like I said, I just started playing in June. But yeah, that'd be my biggest shout out to him. And then Top Deck, my LGS.
Awesome, man. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next time.
Yep, see ya.